Thank you, Jennifer. I think we should finish the last panelist, and we then, as Professor in his presentation said, we will open it up for the questions, because I think we'll have a time. These are all very, very important topics, what has been presented there. And I'm sure it will be so many questions also will be there. We have the last speaker, Wing Commander retired Sudhakaran. I have already given his introduction and background. I request Wing Commander to make his presentation.
Thank you, Gulshan sir. It's a pleasure to have been introduced by you. Good morning to one and all, my friends in Israel, and good afternoon, friends in India. Artificial intelligence is the buzzword of our times, and rightly so. A domain which by itself has the capacity to revolutionize not only humanity, but the entire universe. Therefore, it's but obvious that a domain with such prowess be of great interest amongst academicians, technologists, economists, military and political leaders. Therefore, this topic is very relevant, and the questions that are being asked are equally of great importance. Let me quickly advise the audience, since I'm going to share a presentation, please switch on to the speaker view so that you get the full view, just in case if you're into the gallery view. I have heard the other panel members express their views and perspective, and they are right if we look at the subject from the prism of what they see. But I'm here to present a very alternate view, a view which probably might not be palatable because we just simply don't understand the very nature of intelligence itself, let alone be artificial intelligence. My previous speaker, Jennifer Woodward of NSCAD, did cover in detail about the challenges an artificially intelligent system faces in deciphering and understanding the real problems of the world as it is. A perspective which requires a deeper understanding of intelligence is what I intend to cover in this talk, and then try to understand and address the opportunities and the security challenges. Because if we don't understand the basics right, we will probably not be able to arrive at the right conclusions. For getting the right conclusions, we need to ask the right questions. I don't want to sound a killjoy of sorts, but the questions and conclusions may point to a far more devastating consequence and may appear to lead to an existential crisis of sorts, rather than security challenges restricted to nations, the people, and its borders. Let me cut the long story short and take all of you into my world and its perspectives. I'm covering my views in three major headings. A brief introduction for aligning the audience to my perspective as to why I'm saying what I'm saying. In this part, I highlight on the very nature of intelligence, its components, and the capabilities of artificial intelligence, what we know of and have today. This is important because the very definition of artificial intelligence is very distorted, and consequently, what has nothing to do with intelligence has been masquerading as one between us. If we don't define a subject correctly, as I told before, the fundamental question that we are trying to find answers for will always be elusive. The right answers will only come from the right questions. Post the introduction, I shall briefly cover the definition and difference between the two digital siblings of intelligence. One we know, and the other is hidden in plain sight. But yes, there is a larger group which is actively developing this, and this is where the real threats and the opportunities are going to come from. Once we know what we are dealing with, we can unravel the mystery and address the questions that face us. Lastly, I would then come to the key question that this particular panel is trying to ponder over. Before we get deeper into the subject, we need to understand the relationship between data, information, and intelligence. Just give me a moment. Once we do that, we can then relook the relationship data has with machine learning. If we then compartmentalize the phenomena of intelligence found in human beings and subsequently compare the true nature of digital and natural intelligence, then shall we be able to understand the level of exaggeration that we have placed on AI as it exists and is evolving. This is a pyramid that we must all be able to relate to very easily. This slide depicts the relationship between data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Most of us can easily relate to this pyramid and may have come across it also. It's intelligence that transforms data into information and information into knowledge, and knowledge finally into wisdom. Without this, data can never transcend to wisdom, and consequently, we can never achieve intelligence from any sort of data whatsoever. Any being which has the ability to exhibit intelligence does so in three distinct ways: intelligence by comparison, intelligence by computation, and intelligence by cognition. Let me quickly explain and make it easy for everyone to understand. Intelligence by comparison is the most elementary and routine form of intelligence exhibited by all organic life forms. Please note that the intelligence is a phenomena observed only amongst organic beings. And this is something that I'm going to refer subsequently, and then we will be able to draw the analogy and the gap between natural intelligence and artificial intelligence. Even animals and plants have the capability to exhibit this form of intelligence. A sniffer dog zeroing down on a criminal based on the smell it sniffs at a crime scene is a classic example of this form of intelligence. In other words, it's a form of intelligence exhibited by retrieving data or experience from the memory. The second type of intelligence is by computation. This is slightly an evolved form of intelligence, and only some special beings are capable of exhibiting this feature. Octopus in the nature has the ability to compute, and various experiments have proven this fact. This form of intelligence requires methods, processes, formula to be applied before arriving at the specified result. The main difference between intelligence by comparison and by computation is that for computation, it is mandatory to have a past memory for some tangible output, while for computation, the input arrives at the output by processing it through some proven methods or process or formulae. But the most important part of intelligence is intelligence by cognition. Cognitive processes use existing knowledge and generate new knowledge. It is a mental process and action of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and senses. Cognitive process can work in a zero data and method regime. This kind of intelligence is the rarest of its kind and is observed only in human beings. Even in human beings, it is seldom used, as most of the routine requirements to use phenomena of intelligence are met by the basic frameworks of comparison and computation. Einstein's theory of relativity by using past experience or the Vedic inscriptions of the cosmos are a result of cognitive intelligence. Now, when we look at the aspect of machine learning and its relation with data, or shall I mix the term big data here, we can easily conclude that by virtue of merely employing the method of curve fitting and adjusting the coefficient of the slope of a curve, technologies like machine learning and deep learning, which are the backbone of modern AI frameworks, solve most of the problems which appear to be intelligent. The truth of the matter is, they operate merely in the realm of comparative and computational intelligence. The reason why I use big data instead of data in this is when we speak of intelligence, it always requires a multi-dimensional voluminous data set to arrive at any meaningful conclusion. That is why Jennifer Woodward was referring the complexity of assessing the real meaning of something very casually remarked. It's my belief that when digital intelligence reaches a point wherein it mimics natural intelligence, big data would be irrelevant, as intelligence would need experience to refine and evolve rather than merely confined to the realm of unidirectional data sets as we know of in big data. It is for this reason, that I choose to leave this part of this topic and concentrate purely on the artificial intelligence aspect of the topic. So with this as the background, and when we revisit our journey to wisdom pyramid, we can clearly see that the intelligence by comparison almost operates at all levels till the gateway of wisdom. Good memory may reflect good knowledge, but may not make someone wise. The computational intelligence starts at the upper layers of data all the way to the wisdom room, but not to its pinnacle. It's only cognitive intelligence that operates between the whole of knowledge and the wisdom realms in toto. Why this diagram is of significance is that the importance of cognition in intelligence need to be understood very clearly. Only then we can define the real answers for the opportunities and security challenges that are going to come from the digital intelligence domain. If we now analyze the components of AI, we shall realize that it is nothing more than a framework born out of the marriage between several comparison and computational frameworks. I often come across the artificial intelligence bot Sophia, and as to how intelligent it is, it merely operates in the linguistic framework, which is governed by a grammar, which in turn is a simple set of rules and definitions. To deliver an intelligent response to a given question, multi-sensory input is mandatory. For example, if you ask your Alexa or Hey Google to write a poem for you, it can at the best read out a poem with a similar context. On the other hand, an average human being shall politely acknowledge his or her lack of ability in doing so, or may smartly remix some lines from his memory and present one. In short, let me conclude that intelligence without cognitive abilities is just mechanical. AI as it exists and evolving is therefore just nothing but smart automation. The term intelligence associated with the very phrase AI is itself sometimes misleading and wrong. So does that mean that we need not worry at all? Or is AI all about hype and myth? We need to wait a bit more to find the answers to this. What we see as AI today is mostly branded as narrow AI or limited AI. If we just accept it the way it is, as I've already stated, it as an automation, smart automation technology, rather than being intelligent, then it's full of opportunities in a very limited context. We are already seeing the benefit of this, and of course, it comes with a certain level of risk and challenge in all walks of life. And this has been amply covered by fellow co-panelists here. The so-called narrow AI is already giving us a plethora of benefits, and it promises a rich set of opportunities also for the future. But that is not what I am here to discuss about. There is another context that I want to present. There is a race between artificial intelligence and synthetic intelligence. Many of you wouldn't have even come across this term, but this term is of vital importance. If we don't understand technologies that are going to hit us in the near future, we are going to be overwhelmed. And that is why it is very important we need to at least understand what we are talking about. So the first question that could come in anyone's mind is, after having my views, hearing my views so far, what's in a name? To find the answer to the question, we need to understand that the term AI was coined at a time when even elementary calculators weren't there. It was in fact coined in the year 1956. And the technology of those times never believed technology would reach this level in just over half a century. In addition, the pursuit of AI was almost abandoned thrice between the 70s and 90s. If we take a closer look at the very term AI, we realize it comprises of two words: artificial and intelligence. Artificial means that which is not real. In fact, true to its name, we do have what is called an unreal intelligence. And if intelligence cannot be or never be unreal, then what are we talking about? Remember, a few minutes ago, I did reiterate on the point that intelligence is a phenomena observed only in organic beings. The aim is to replicate or copy the phenomena in the digital space. And digital space is inorganic or synthetic in nature. So if our real aim is to mimic the phenomena of intelligence with cognitive abilities, then cognitive computing or synthetic intelligence gives a much more purposeful name to it. So by merely changing the name, will it change anything at all? This is another logical question that anyone could ask. The answer to this is very much a resounding yes. To be able to incorporate cognitive abilities in machines, we need to move away from the ways we employ to develop AI frameworks. What we are doing today is a human is creating a holistic framework which by iterative methods of weight tuning eventually ends up solving a very narrow band of problems. And that is not intelligence at all. We need to look at the development of this in an altogether new way. While I'm certainly not the first to propagate this line of thought, and there is enough research which is already being carried out, and I'm of the strong belief that there have been significant breakthroughs that have been achieved, and it has been kept confidential in the interest of achieving supremacy at a later date. A change of name will lead to the correct realization also amongst the practitioners and segregate those who are happy downloading frameworks from GitHubs and customizing to real research and customizing than to the real researchers who are in the pursuit of intelligence, the intelligence alchemists, one of whom I claim to be. In a nutshell, let me put these things in a very broad perspective. What are artificial intelligence and its applications? Artificial intelligence is a supposed intelligence exhibited by machine through a set of theories, methods, and algorithms. As I told you before, all this only belong to the realm of comparative and computational intelligence. Applications include problem solving, game playing, natural language processing, speech recognition, image processing, engineering, automatic programming, and robotics. So what is synthetic intelligence and cognitive computing all about? It refers to the computing that focuses on reasoning and understanding at a higher level in a manner that is analogous to human cognition, rationale, and judgment. Applications include replacement of human beings in areas of speech recognition, sentiment analysis, face detection, risk assessment, and fraud detection. If this technology is to be realized, Jennifer Woodward would never have that complaint that she had, that intelligence today has its own shortcomings. So it's clear that the difference between AI and SI is in the way that they approach, the task. The difference is exactly as that of a sniffer dog was that of a detective or of a cop. So to refresh what we have discussed so far, and then have a bird's eye view of what I've been talking about, we can summarize it as seen in the slide. AI as it is cannot cause a challenge to be discussed so seriously. It's a technology like anything else with its own pros and cons. But synthetic intelligence has far-reaching consequences, and that needs to be examined closely because it may have effects that shall undermine our core existence. I shall discuss this in details in the challenges section of this presentation. As far as the opportunities of artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence is concerned, it could be an endless list. But I thought, just to wake up the audience who must have almost gone into a slumber of having heard for so long some repeated terms, I thought, let me take you into the fantasy world of Harry Potter. We will see an unprecedented information revolution in the history of mankind if synthetic intelligence ever were to be a reality. Research and development in every field shall be accelerated at breakneck speeds, unrivaled in our history. We certainly shall enjoy extended life expectancy and may even see immortality of life. We will also see a singular crime-free world, but then it will have its own meaning, which I shall cover in the challenges. The life conditions will be very much optimized. Everyone will have what he or she needs. We may live in a zero poverty regime, and we may be able to colonize other galaxies also. But when we get to challenges, all these turns right on its heads. Security challenges again shall be of two kinds. We have to see the threats from the artificial intelligence or the synthetic intelligence domain in the short term as well as in the long term. Data is the new oil. That's what people say now. Intelligence shall be the new weapon of the future. The one who crosses that line first and develops the first artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence, one of the first things we can assure is that it shall prevent anyone else from crossing that Rubicon. And it would be next to impossible task to stop such a system from doing so. We've already seen such an intent from the nuclear domain. The person, corporate, or nation which shall first control such a system may try to factor adequate checks and balances to control the system and thereby enjoy a pole position. We may see a major economic consolidation and monopoly of the agent who is going to control this vital resource. The democratic setup as we see shall collapse in no time, or at least a veiled threat shall ensure a setup mostly like the democracy practiced by communist regimes or by dictators. We may witness a new form of colonialism and digital dictatorship. The entire population may be at an unprecedented level of intrusive surveillance and brain scanning leading to mass exterminations. We shall see a unipolar, singular world order. The long-term challenges could deal a death knell to mankind itself. It may begin with the augmentation of human capabilities, and a new breed of hybrid humans may rule the world for a short span of time. Artificial superintelligence shall eventually overpower all forms of human beings. Organic life may sustain longer, but human beings could very much be overwhelmed by this new breed of digital species, akin to the fate of Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens that we human beings emerged out of. So the key point that I would like to leave to the jury is, could digital intelligence through SI be the next step towards human evolution? After all, evolution is a continuous process, and it's a constant upgrade to adapt to the situations and the ecosystem. So could there be a possibility of life to exist outside an organic framework? The fundamental composition of both organic and inorganic substances, at the end of the day, are the same elements. The only silver lining that I see is life in some forms shall continue to survive for sure if intelligence indeed is the path for future evolution. Ladies and gentlemen, I have just covered on a very small aspect of this. Coming to as to how it can be done and why it can be done and where it shall be done and who are the people who are likely to cross it, it's a matter to be discussed for another day. But today, I'll take your leave, and any of your questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you one and all for having given me this opportunity, and I am now ready for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, for such a illuminating and very deep-rooted presentation. I will summarize and the issues which all of the four panelists have said it, I will certainly summarize and for the seminar. But before we do that, we have 10 minutes, and we can entertain 4 questions maximum. And I request participants and delegates, if they have a question, or if